And welcome back to another edition of the Add 10 Gallons Concrete Podcast. Today we've got a very interesting one for you. We have the man who is spearheading Fortera. He's trying to change the world out here. Mr. Kas, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. Monday morning.
Yeah, it is. It is Monday morning for you, Monday afternoon for us. We're out here on the East Coast. Kas calling in from sunny California, which actually is kind of interesting because I don't know too many concrete guys that are holed up in Silicon Valley. How on earth do you decide to run into the concrete business, the cement world, from out there in Silicon Valley?
This is the hub for concrete and cement. You didn't get the memo?
No, by the way, if you listen to MIT, they're the hub for all the concrete innovations. So you're gonna start a East Coast West Coast war here.
No, it's it really comes down to the type of business we're in, right? We are a new cement, but we are a cement and materials technology company at our core, and the way we're actually going about our business is like a typical startup. So for startups, and if you're raising money, you got to be near the money. So your investors want to be within 2 hours, either driving or flying distance of their investment. So this is where you got to be.
Is there anybody else doing like concrete or cement stuff, or are you guys the only game in town?
So the Silicon Valley is kind of an interesting layout. So it's the entire Bay Area, but different pockets of the Bay Area specialize in different things.
Okay.
Right? So this is you almost find that there's actually several Silicon Valleys within the Bay Area. So in the peninsula, which is like Mountain View, Palo Alto, there's a lot of software startups, right? And that's where the software tech is developed. You go to San Francisco, and that's a lot of the, for a while it's strictly apps. Now it's, there's a lot going on there, but you have more app development and whatnot in San Francisco, and that one's constantly evolving. The East Bay is where a lot of the hard tech is. Like you'll find nuclear development, you'll find people, launching rocket ships. So this is more infrastructure, energy, that type of thing. And then the South Bay, where we're at, this is becoming, a major hub as we speak. And it really has to do with, where the money is and wanting to actually push Silicon Valley to be broader in its scope. But for instance, the South Bay, originally, there's a lot of large buildings with a lot of electricity for manufacturing. And over time, as manufacturing has left, those buildings facilitate a lot of development of new technologies just because of the size and the amount of power we got down here. And then just the talent as well.
That's cool. Thanks for the background on Silicon Valley. I really had no idea. And I think it'd probably be helpful for the audience to get your background too. Why don't you just jump in and tell us how in the world did you end up in a place where you not only technically helped develop a new cement material, but now you're leading the charge on it in the industry? Give us the whole thing. How in the world? It's so different to say, yeah. I've got a new cement and I'm going to do it in Silicon Valley. So really need to understand the background here.
Yeah, no, and the interesting part for me is, I didn't study traditional cement, right? I'm a materials scientist, but I studied polymers and alloys, the things that were exciting at the time. And that's where you felt all the development was going to be. And getting into cement was entirely from the new cement perspective. Fortera, what we're doing, it's inspired by, a natural process. It's something that happens in nature every day. And the specialists in this field, they're actually people that understand that chemistry. So real heavy chemistry focus. It's not a significant amount of overlap with classic Portland cement chemistry. So it really is, the process to create new things adapted to this category rather than it coming from, the Portland cement business. And for me, I've just always been attracted to new things, innovation, and then just taking my core understanding of material science and trying to adapt it to this industry.
What'd you do before this? This isn't the only thing you've done, right?
This was No, this was my first job out of college. I went to school in Michigan, studied material science there. Uh, Came back to the Bay Area. I thought I was going to be working at some defense contractor, Lockheed Martin or something, developing some cool new alloy that could
Right.
withstand an infinite amount of heat.
Yeah.
And it just so happened uh, got attracted to this startup called Calera, which was the same technology we're working on today, but about 17, 18 years ago. Um, Got attracted to it, saw its potential, got excited about what we were doing, the chemistry, and then just not being that focused on what, it's more how and why.
Gotcha. So you're trying to be the Palmer Luckey of the cement world. You can clip
Yes.
that. You can clip that. uh, yeah. So instead of going out and doing what he's doing and starting Andrew, you're out here with Fortera trying to build it up. So when we bring people on the show, it's good to get a little bit of background in what they're trying to do. But we didn't. Not everybody jumps into the business thinking that they've got every answer, but they almost always think they have identified correctly a problem, and then there's a solution that comes next. And so when you jumped in, you got excited about Calera. Like, what was the problem that they were setting out to solve?
You know, this is a good question because climate tech is a different beast. It's one thing for you and your buddies to come up with an idea. You say, hey, what are our skills and what's this market look like and how do we get a piece of it, right? And your options are endless, right? It's like, what do we want to do? We could start a car wash. We could start a car business. Climate tech, you come at it backwards.
Mm.
You see the problem, and then you have to create a solution, even though you don't actually, you might not have that in mind, right? You're attacking the problem, and you're kind of praying that you're going to solve it as you're chasing it. So, the cement problem was presented to me. The amount of CO2 is being emitted. Obviously, it's 7 to 8% of all CO2 emissions comes from cement and concrete. Right there's the mission, right? And then you're agreeing that this is a problem that we're going to dedicate our energy and our mental energy to solving. And you actually come up with a solution along the way rather than we want to start this business. We believe this product's going to sell. It's mission driven. You hear that a lot, but this is like set sail before you actually have a solution, which is totally backwards.
Totally backwards. So it's not just backwards. It's how do you feed your family when that's like the order of operations.
Well, remember how you asked why are we in Silicon Valley? That's in your family. You go to areas where they love risk, and they will fund people, not products, who are setting sail.
Oh my gosh! It's funny though. You mentioned about like you could do anything you want, and you want to start a car wash, do anything. I literally the other day I'm driving my daughter to school. She had to go to school early because she's in like the band program. They're doing the rehearsals early before school, and so we're headed there. And she starts asking me questions about this and that, and it leads down a road about capitalism. And she was like, well, "What's that mean?" It's like, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your background is, it doesn't matter who your parents were. If you have the work ethic and can build the skills and you can gain the knowledge, you can do anything you want to do. And we started listing off jobs and companies and things that like you just go out and you just do it. You just do it. You just got to go out there and number one skill is hard work. So I'm trying to instill those things in her now. She's 9. I'm trying to plant those seeds in her.
Start early.
Well, nobody ever planted those in me to say that you do absolutely whatever you want, wherever you want. Just go out. You just have to be willing to put in the work. And I ended up figuring that out. But as Joey and I will tell you, every lesson we learned in our life, we learned the hard way. Who kind of like put you on this path? Were your parents teaching you this kind of stuff? How did you figure out that this is something you could do and you should take the bull by the horns on it?
This is actually the secret sauce of being in the Bay Area and being in Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley, people try to recreate this place. There's funds popping up in Southern California and Austin and New York,
Miami.
Everybody's is trying to recreate this recipe. But what's really makes it work is there's so many things going on, so many companies being built. There's 10,000 startups you've never heard of that are in a little office somewhere, in a garage somewhere. And when you just exist in this place, you see this impossible feat, building this like a unicorn, a $1 billion company. And it's like climbing Mount Everest, right? It's no different in its how much it takes to get to the top. And normally you'd think this is not something that I would be able to do. But because every single day we see it happening, we're bumping into people that, we worked with, we went to school with in this place, and seeing them do it, and they come down from the mountain and they say, and prove it's possible. That is actually how you keep going. That's what gives you this energy that it's possible, right? It's no different than seeing like a YouTube video, like someone painting their car with a can of spray paint. You're like, that's doable. I can do it. You saw it. It's now visible. But we get that from, a professional standpoint where no matter how impossible this seems and how the road is just not clear, right? It could be a walkathon, a 5K, or a triathlon. Nobody knows what you just embarked on. But because we get so much affirmation from just the people around you that walked the path and survived, it just gives you this feeling like this is possible. You just got to keep grinding. You got to keep chasing and just never give up.
How many years now have you been grinding in this culture that, is keeping you going? How long has it been?
It's almost 2 decades. I'd say to last this long, because I'm considered old. I'm like an old dog, right? It's like it's a sport in your 20s and early 30s, but I'm getting old. But to last this long, there's an inflection point where at first it's all adrenaline and motivation. Like I want to be, I want to be someone who succeeds in this arena. And then for the latter half of your career, it's like you just have to enjoy getting punched in the face. You have to enjoy like rolling your ankle and keep having to move forward, right? Like there's other ways to make money. There's other ways to be successful. This is a very crazy arena to do it in.
Well, it's even harder not to get bitter and resentful. You talk about seeing your friends, people and seeing them succeed, and then not saying you're not succeeding. I'm saying to see them maybe take off faster. Maybe they did it in 5 or 10 years, and you're still grinding away. And we'll get to in a little bit where you guys are and why it is such an exciting time at Fortera. But just the mindset of having to grind that long and still being able to come on a show like ours and have a positive attitude about it, like that's probably the most interesting thing.
No, and that's where the physiology, like for me, for like pro athletes, for instance, and fighters, like you realize the people that can like get injured and still play or recover the fastest, they end up being this, the GOATs of the game, right? They play the most games. They just keep going. And that exists here, right? That exact thing. If you see someone, being successful, does that make you excited and give you more fuel? Or does that break you a little bit and make you feel like maybe I'm not cut out for this?
Are you a football fan at all?
I am. My wife's from the Midwest, so every Sunday from morning to night it's on. And then
college. That's cool. Who is her football team, and does she have a pro team that she follows?
We're the Bay Area, so she likes the Niners and Chiefs, though. She's from Kansas. Chiefs.
Gotcha. Yeah, I spent a few years in Kansas City. Talk about infectious like city culture, because if you spend any time there, you realize like how much they love their Chiefs. And when I was there, the Chiefs weren't very good, and they just were starting to like have a little bit of hope, and then were just before they got Patrick Mahomes, and then things really turned around. But when I was there, like that whole town, like it made you want to be a Chiefs fan because everybody just loved it so much. You would go to the games, you feel the energy in the stadium and stuff like that. But the reason I asked is because we're in the middle of this as we're recording this right now. It's the like first day of fall ACI, which I'm assuming you've got some folks out here in Baltimore at that, and then it also happens to be a time where all these college football coaches are getting fired. And
Yep.
it made me think about it because you're coming in this grind of, we're using a lot of capital, we're using a lot of energy, and we're trying to do something monumental. And we keep moving forward, and we see other people that are reaching that mountaintop that are climbing Mount Everest, and we think our turn's next. And the fact that I just really can't get over the positive attitude you have about it, because tell you what, LSU doesn't have that. They just fired Brian Kelly, and they're going to pay him $50 million. Florida just fired their coach, and they're going to pay him, not a bad severance, and Penn State too. But all these guys are looking around at their counterparts, at their equals, the other schools, and they're saying, we're not happy. We aren't at the mountaintop, and we think we should be. So as you look forward to climbing the top of Mount Everest, you have to start hitting certain milestones. And when we talked recently about the React product, and for folks that don't know, Fortera is making a cement alternative. It's a highly reactive, it recycles CO2, takes it in, combines it with a reactive form of calcium, and the precipitated calcium carbonate that comes off that works as a cement replacement. And it could be 100% cement replacement. It doesn't have to be just partial. And if I got that wrong, Cass, at all, feel free to correct me. But as you look at these milestones, you got a big one coming up. You guys are actually building like a plant, like a huge plant to actually take, not just a pilot plant, like a real big daddy, hundreds of thousands of tons plant. Number one, correct me if I misspoke in any of that, but number two, like part of that positivity is seeing that plant. When's that build start? Where are you putting it? Like this is huge. It's not an idea anymore. It's not on paper anymore. Like that's big. It's big time.
This is our Super Bowl, right? This was a sketch on a napkin almost 2 decades ago. The entire ride, people are constantly saying they're doubting you. Either they're doubting the chemistry, they're doubting the business, they're doubting the market. There's always so much doubt being showered on you during the entire climb. So it's bad enough that you got to do it, but you keep running into those pockets of people, and then they're very convincing, smart people. So it's not like you can discount what they're saying. But again, it's that personality. Like, are they adding fuel to your tank, or are they taking it away? And that's a you thing. So the more people say it's not possible, the more people kind of say this chemistry is not possible. Mm-hmm. It's actually exciting, because if it was possible, if it was something that a person can wrap their brain around, there's probably no money in this. There's probably nothing novel going on here, right? You kind of need that that friction, because it just proves that this path is unique, and it's kind of freaking people out, and it's blowing people's minds. But no, this is they call it the Valley of Death for startups. I don't know if you've heard that term.
No. I've heard trough of disillusionment.
No, this is the Valley of Extreme Finality. And it's mainly for capital intensive industries where you don't really get multiple swings at the plate, right? You don't, I keep bringing it back to this, but it's the reason why you're in Silicon Valley. It's a lot of money. Like, this is hundreds of millions of dollars to play this game. And what you build has to work, and you don't really get another shot at it. So that ramp up to where, you build a pilot unit, then you build a demo unit, then you build a, what we call a small commercial unit. These are all to just de-risk the big game, because you really get one shot. What's been exciting for us is we've just stayed loyal to that path, not skipping any steps, no shortcuts. We got lucky early on that our investors, they understand that this is not a 7 to 10 year, create some new software, sell it as fast, get to market as fast as possible. They understood that we're building infrastructure. This is a brand new chemistry. This is just a complete game changer, which takes time. and there's no shortcuts. You have to build it, you have to run it to learn from it. You can't just do a paper exercise and try to scale up 100x from your previous plan. There's basic chemical engineering. You want to stay between 20 and 40x scale up with each step. So we've been staying loyal to that and learning along the way. So it's not as scary, but it is, right? There's so many moving parts. So yeah, we're building about a 400,000 ton per year facility. Just for your brain, it's about like a 10-acre, a little under 10 acres of land. This is not a small endeavor. It's a manufacturing facility. We've been fortunate enough to, the industry is excited. I'd say 10 years ago, we were having to push this idea onto people. Now it's pull, and it's us trying to keep up and basically not roll our ankle during the process. And it's gonna service the Western United States. That's kind of the intended goal. I'd say the exact location, but we're still under embargo right now. But
okay, gotcha.
But yeah, this is the big game. It's this new chemistry. We're proving you can industrialize and scale it. The 400,000 tons. That's like a nice size, but we can go bigger. But again, we really want to honor that scale up and not get ourselves in too deep. But that valley, this is how you emerge out of the valley to death. I'd say what's interesting is once you get into the valley, you realize, how there's from the outside, it looks like this, this real finite thing. It's like, no, you get in there, you realize, well, there's a technology valley of death, economic valley of death, project execution valley of death. Like you start coming up with these new little layers of things that you're trying to prove out. So this is going to knock out a lot of those risks that are perceived and just prove that it's possible to build this, to scale it, to make good, consistent product. Just lower that risk, because that risk tolerance in the industry, you got to meet them 95% of the way.
Yeah. The first time we were able to meet, that was the first thing you said. You said the main obstacle to actually decarbonizing cement or concrete is actually risk, and that there's liability to the operators, and it's not so easy for them to just flip a switch and say, yeah, let me not use what I've used the last 100 years and let's go with what the new guy's selling. So
Yeah.
when you run into that, like how do you handle that?
This is random analogy, but I'm like obsessed with free solo videos. You ever watch those rock climbers that they rock climb without a rope? And I watched that like a Netflix documentary where this guy did El Capitan with no rope. And what you start seeing is risk tolerance is on a continuum, right? You got these people that are climbing skyscrapers just with no rope. And then you have folks who just hate risk, right? And this is a physiological difference between humans. Some people just crave it. Some people, their mission every day is to avoid it. When you get in these big industries, the rock stars of these industries are people who mitigate risk and avoid risk and reduce risk, right? They're not free soloing a skyscraper in Hong Kong. They are making sure the product is being made, the plant is safe, everything is running as planned, deliveries are leaving. That's their game. That's their obsession. But they're the ones that control adoption, right? This is the customer. They need to get comfortable with what you're doing, and they don't have the same risk profile as, let's say, we would, right? The people who, myself, or the people who would join a company like Fortera, there's a higher risk profile. It's a startup. It's a new technology. And you have to decide, you try to get them to absorb more risk, or do you de-risk to where it's palatable? And that is the tension. That is the game you're playing every day, trying to find folks to, who will entertain it and adopt it at its current state and be part of that journey, be part of that process. And you'll find everybody loves everybody loves new things, right? This isn't even, I say the industry gets a hard time because people say, oh, it doesn't adopt new things. That's not true. They don't adopt new bad things, right? And they have to have a shield up for new technologies because every 6 months, someone has a new solution, new idea. But they see it so often, and there's so many empty promises behind those products that they have to build this wall up. So the burden is on us, the new product people, to endure that wall and make them feel comfortable and reduce that risk. But that's an ongoing process, and it shouldn't change. Not in this industry. Life-bearing application. Keep that wall up. Do not be, fooled by some, promises of a new product that's not proven. Like, you cannot put that, absorb that risk. It's too important of an industry.
No, that's a good point. Joey and I are in a similar situation. We've got new technology, it's an additive. So we're not decarbonizing anything, but we are changing the way the concrete behaves. And when we first set out to do that, we thought we were going to solve all these problems that we saw out there. We say, oh my gosh, the concrete's not doing this, it's not doing that, it's not doing this, or we can fix all this stuff with this one magical ingredient. And went out there and tried to tell people how wonderful we were and how much we were going to do. But at the end of the day, it was really about making relationships and connections with people and letting them know we actually cared about them and their business. It wasn't about how great we were, our product was. They didn't care at all. But the minute they felt like we were like side by side with them in the trenches, trying to really solve for them or solve for whatever problem was most pressing for them, that was when we started to gain real traction. And I'm curious for you, if you've had a similar experience in your 15 or 20 years, or and if yes or no, whatever that experience is, like, what's it like fighting side by side along your customers and trying to find somebody that does want to decarbonize to the extent that you're actually being able to build a 400,000 ton production facility?
No, you nailed it on the head. This is a trust-based relationship exercise, right? We spend all day with our product, so we know it in and out. It's our child, right? We know our kid. We know what their DNA is. We know how they operate, and we're asking folks to drink through a fire hose and get familiar with our product, our chemistry. They weren't around for the scale up. They didn't see that, right? And they haven't seen every single project we've done, right? They might get a slide or a PDF of here was the end result, but they weren't there for the pour. They weren't there for the finishing. And they'll never get that backstory. They'll just get, it's equivalent of showing a slideshow of your kid from age 1 to 18 and saying, this is, them now, right? It's not at all.
No, that's a great analogy right there. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yes. So what they're getting to know you and how astute of a person you are, and if they like you and you like it, that's the bridge that you're building, right? If you're a similar soul, similar minded person, and they're like, okay, you're sold on this, I'm sold on you. That's the closest you're gonna get to confidence, right? Especially in these situations where we're asking them to take on something new, and right, we see new and exciting, they see risky and risky. That's all they're able to deduce from that. So no, I'd say every successful relationship or customer relationship has actually just been a personal relationship, where you just find people that think like you, and that's what's bringing you together, and they join you for this ride. It's almost, it'd be so nice if this was merit based, right? Where the product sells itself, and here's what it can do, and if you want these things, you should buy it. But there's so many other factors that are more important to them, which is supply consistency. They have 20 years of experience with this product. And if it's like, it might be inferior, but they have all that background knowledge, and the change is just going to hurt too much. Like we're thinking, oh, if I make a stronger cement, they'll switch. It's like, that's not where their problems are. You're not solving a real issue because the strength is sufficient. This market is happy. So in that relationship, if you can form it and develop it,
Mm-hmm.
then you start to see what are the real problems that you could solve, right? And if you're lucky, it's something that you've been obsessing over in the lab. I'm like, oh, our product does that. But a lot of the times it is working together and say, okay, like, what can we actually do? What can we use our chemistry, our product, our technology? What can we do with this that is actually exciting for you? And then there's your organization, and then there's you, like your role, your responsibility with an organization. And you need to be solving for all those things at the same time.
Well, let's go back to something you said a few minutes ago. You said that 10 years ago you were push, 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 and then now for the first time that you can remember, now it seems like it's pull, pull, pull. And so if you're listening to this right now and you're one of the concrete QC guys, you have no idea what that means. It's the idea that the customer is pulling you, the supplier, along, and they're saying, please give me this thing that I want, need, don't have. And it's your job to catch up to them and be able to supply them. I don't know too many times in the history of concrete where there's been a pull market for new technologies. Maybe there are. Maybe there probably have been with equipment revolutions and admixture revolutions, but now we're looking at it in a powder revolution, and folks are coming out there and then they're pulling along new powder technologies. What is it? What do you think happened? What's the driver there that flipped that switch?
That's a good question. I mean, it's what's been interesting to watch. Is like why do people have this change, right? And if we could pinpoint it to like a single event, then that could be something we could gamify. That could be something we learn how to do. But this is like an entire shift in mindset for a whole, like just a large industry.
Mm-hmm.
Like low carbon has been around for a while. The market's at equilibrium to some degree. So it's not like this panic has set in. Like and this is another analogy, I'm full of them. It's like when you start, dating someone and you're in a relationship, you go exclusive. There's no moment where all of a sudden they did something. You're like, I love this person, right? It's just 6 months goes by or a year goes by or whatever. And then all of a sudden you realize, oh, wow, I'm thinking completely different about this human being. Like just a bunch of little things happened and then they just kind of amassed. And all of a sudden I'm thinking different. And that's what it felt like this industry just, over the last, 2 decades, even 3 decades, I don't know what it was like in the 90s for this industry, but it does feel like these topics keep coming back. They get a little bit of traction and then they get rejected. And then they come back, they get, we had like the green bubble, what I call green bubble 1.0, 2008 to 2014. And then it went away. And then it came back. And right now, we're in the second green bubble and it's kind of fizzling a little bit, right? We lost some traction. But every time the bubble comes back, it comes back stronger and it lasts longer. Mm. So this is what it feels like. It's not just something happened where people felt like they needed to make a change. The momentum just took over. They hit an inflection point and now it's happening.
No, that's interesting. So I kind of looked at two other things. I wanted to hear your opinion because I'm not in the middle of it. I'm on the outside of it. And Joey and I, however, are always in the plants we got a lot of friends in the industry, so we're seeing them and talking to them, and so I wanted to hear your perspective because you're like right in the middle of the grind, and you've been in the grind a long time. So I like that perspective that you thought that analogy. That's interesting because from our side, and I'll speak for myself first because Joey might have a different opinion, but from my side, it almost seems like you're a single guy and your parents and uncles and aunties are pressuring you, when are you going to get married?
Yeah.
Why are you still doing this? And then
Yeah.
suddenly a wonderful woman comes along and you're like, well, I guess now's the time. So so where the uncles and aunties and everybody are all of our cement friends over in Europe. And what's interesting about that is in the US, a lot of the cement companies, vast majority, a strong majority of the cement companies are international. And they're multinational corporations that are headquartered outside of the United States. And they've got these net zero things, and that's the aunties and uncles saying, "Hey, when are you gonna decarbonize? When are you gonna get married?" And you're like, "I don't want to do that. I'm living my life. I'm happy here. I'm good. I'm good." And then suddenly Amazon comes along, and Google comes along, Facebook comes along, and said, "You know what? We want to build all these data centers, but we want to, we're not saying we have to be net zero, but let's reduce this carbon footprint by a ton." Now you're looking up, you're saying, well, that's a pretty attractive market. Maybe it is time to settle down, and maybe we should jump this. And now all of a sudden, you're seeing the market get pulled in this direction, and it's getting pulled because of this, all these data centers and things that are getting built. And so that's when I look at it, that's how I view this sudden change, this sudden reversal of everybody. Maybe this isn't such a bad thing. We should figure out how to do it. So I don't know if you've seen any of that, if any of that makes sense on your end, if that's been one of the things that's been a driver for you having conversations with some of these folks that are building the data centers.
No, this is a great. I never thought in a million years Microsoft would be an investor in a cement company like ours, right? This is like universes are colliding. This is not we are in Silicon Valley, we are a startup, but we are, we're not in that ecosystem. But now all of a sudden it's starting to make a lot of sense, right? And the data centers have been a huge driver. And arguably, they're taking the place of what momentum we had from the green bubble. They're taking that torch and they're running with it. And it's been really exciting to get them involved because their risk profile, right? This is a consumer of cement and concrete that has that little bit of more of a risk profile. So it's a great transition as we continue down that path of reducing our risk. It's a great customer.
Joey, what have you seen when you're out there talking to people? Does anybody talking to you about the Amazon projects and going green? Like, what are you seeing in your world?
Not really going green, especially. I don't think it's nearly as big of a deal, in the Midwest, over here in the East, especially, inland, in the East, Birmingham, Nashville, up in Ohio. I don't think the green initiative is really here. It's more of just, when it comes to like manufactured sand, that's what we deal with more so than, cement. It's monetary. People are, one, looking to save money by using manufactured sand. And two, they're looking for a steady, consistent, somewhat high quality or somewhat decent quality fine aggregate source. That's what we're seeing on the sand side. On the cement side, we've already talked, I don't know how many times on this podcast about the 1L transition and, the ready mix industry's, response to that. So I don't know. I don't hear a whole lot about the Amazon projects. I hear about them in passing, because I always ask people, hey, what you got going on? What's a big project you got going on? More often than not, yeah, it's warehouses. But they don't really mention like any specifics about having to make any changes to the mix design, or they're wanting a specific thing. As guys at the plant level, it's, they've just always got the usual commentary about, just truck drivers and the usual ins and outs of, concrete plant life. They're not really worried on that level about going green and reducing the carbon footprint, from behind the batch panel. You know what I'm saying?
I think, hearing both your guys' perspectives, right? It's in my brain it's calibrating to the early adopters are the folks that are camping outside the Apple store for the next iPhone, right? And you don't need the whole industry setting up shop the night before the big, reveal. You just need that pocket to create that excitement, and get everybody thinking, why are these people sleeping in tents for 3 days for or new technology, right?
Yeah.
And that's where it just takes that we call them the early adopter. Mm-hmm. There's this technology adoption curve. There's the early adopter, there's the early majority, late majority, and then mass adoption. And you have to kind of survive that and trying to figure out who is your prototype for each of those stages. It does feel like it is the hyperscalers, especially because the amount of concrete they're consuming these days. But yeah, it's not this uniform distribution of interest, and especially it is going to be regional. But you just need that small few to set up those tents, sleep outside your store. Someone takes a picture, and then everyone has to think, what's going on here? What am I missing? What am I not thinking about? And eventually they will adopt, but it's, somewhere on that curve.
With your new facilities are starting to ramp up, even though you can't tell us where it's at, are you able to tell us, is it a greenfield project? Are you rehabbing an existing plant? Because those are two vastly different jobs, and I got a couple follow-ups.
15 years ago, the idea was to greenfield. It's build a brand new cement plant and start from scratch and build it state of the art, and everything was going to be stainless steel, pharmaceutical grade. Now realizing this is a $1 trillion industry. It's the largest man-made product on the planet. So to think you're going to park across the street and upset that supply chain is crazy. This is if you're not playing within the rules, you're not playing with them, and you're not being a solutions provider, this is a very hard market to disrupt, and you don't want to disrupt it. This is like oxygen and water. You do not want to mess with this supply chain. So what Fortera is it's honoring that same chemistry that we developed back then, but we co-locate. We build with our partners.
Yeah, for sure. I was about to say that's got to be the no-brainer, because you could capture the CO2 they're burning off to make your product. It seems like a win-win. Yeah.
Exactly. And originally, we could take calcium from anywhere. We could take it, the original concept was take it from seawater, the most ubiquitous feedstock in the world. Take that calcium, CO2, we could take it from anywhere. But you're adding these cost premiums to that process, right? Because you're taking calcium from like a really dilute source. And then CO2, you're just kind of being like, I'll take whatever. It's like, well, there's high concentration CO2 sources and there's low. High calcium concentrations and low. And, you might as well take the ones that are the most efficient to take from to keep your costs down, your CapEx down. So co-locating just makes so much sense. Same limestone, same, mining and grinding operation, same kiln. We just take the CO2, take the lime, recombine it, make it, make our cement. And then however it gets into the supply chain, like our mission is to take that CO2 molecule and mineralize it. That's the actual mission. How we do that, whatever the structure is, whatever the most efficient way to do it, and get into the supply chain, we're open. We're agnostic. We're here to deploy the tech and the chemistry, and then, make it worth our partners' while. And then sharing resources, fixed costs, labor, all these things, they just tick down on those operational costs and those capital investments, right? Sharing the same rail, sharing utilities. These are real expenses that just keep adding up and making it cost prohibitive. Because to Joey's point, like it's the, in the end, it's got to make sense financially. It's got to, there's got to be money in it for everybody. So if you're just a little more disciplined in, forming partnerships rather than going greenfield and trying to change everything, a little more disciplined in your design from the technology all the way through the business side and structure and the partnership, that's how you bring all those costs down. And that's how you get adopted by everybody, not just the few that are willing to pay that premium.
Oh, great point. At the end of the day, the dollars are always going to do the talking. And it's interesting in this business because we had to learn that lesson too, where every lesson we learned was the hard way, where even if we solved the problem, if it cost $3 extra a yard, that was not okay in all, 99% of the situations. And it was like, dang, it was only $3 and we just saved you all this time and energy and hassle. And they're like, yeah, but you also lost me the customer. They're like, so we need to solve the problem and not charge $3 a yard more because they're just going to go to the other guy. And I was like, over $3? And I like, boy, you're in the commodity business. Like, okay, so, we're trying not to be in the commodity business. We're trying to be in specialty business. And they say, well, now you're value adding. You got to really add value. And that was hard. Man, that was hard. And so eventually we got to the point where we found markets, and thank God they're sizable enough that you can have the win-win-win where we can make money, the problem gets solved, and the ready-mix concrete producer also saves money. So, thank God. So to hear that, you've landed on that same square of the board is no surprise to us. What I'm hoping is going to be a surprise to us is your answer to the next question. As we get rolling toward the end of this podcast, we have a question that we ask every guest when they come on for the first time. We got to know, what is the craziest thing that you've seen on a job site?
So here's, I saw that as a potential list of questions, and I don't spend as much time on a job site as you'd imagine. And that's where most of my time was in the lab. For the first decade, I was in the lab, and then now I'm on the business side. So I'm not. I wish I had an exciting story, and then if I did, I don't know if I'd be allowed to share. it.
Yeah, that's why we talk on here all the time. We're gonna have an ad 10 after dark one day,
yeah.
and we'll all be able to tell the stories that we're not able to put live on the audio. Yeah, and so with the qualifier, if there's any good story you have, whether it was from the days in the lab or war stories from the field, whatever you got, just clue us into like what was something that's pivotal that sticks out in your mind.
The fun part for me has been going to different concrete labs. Right, I spend a lot of time in the labs because we're at that stage. We have a team that does the actual concrete pours. And that's their wheelhouse. I like to visit the labs and see, the first use of our product when they first actually get their hands on it. It's not the craziest, we hear craziest thinking, oh, some wild thing happened.
Right? Those do happen, and that
yes.
There
was this explosion, and then so crazy for me is it's kind of this 1-2 punch that happens. So we bring our product in, and it's 100% calcium carbonate, right? This is it's like compositionally, it's just limestone, right? When you analyze it, you can barely tell the difference. It's just calcium carbonate, right? And for the last, our entire start of mankind, any understanding of limestone is it's inert. Like it's just, if you wet it, it just gets wet and nothing happens. So we have to go to these labs and convince people that this is calcium carbonate. You're going to add water to it. And 24 hours from now, you're going to get a lot of strength, right? And it's just this, you know, everybody goes along for the ride, and they're like, yeah, sure. We've been talking for the last couple months. We get it. We saw your data. But every single time we do it, we make the cylinders or the mortars, the cubes, and we always stick around for the 1 day breaks. That, like, as soon as you do the break and they accept the fact that this is just calcium carbonate and we mixed it yesterday and we're breaking it today, and you crush, those, 4, 5, 6,000 PSI, 7,000 PSI 1 day breaks, I get to witness, like, neurons in a brain fusing of, like, this shouldn't be possible, right? Like, this is not something that's ordinary. It's very entertaining, and it's exciting because you could just, they have to see it to believe it. And you have to actually do it. This is like, telling someone you're going to, I don't know, throw a perfect dart. It's like, they're like, sure you are. And then you do it, and you do it again and again. And you're like, what? This, once is lucky, but, like, this shouldn't be possible. So that's exciting for me. And what that, again, it goes to that very beginning thing. If you're not blowing people's minds, if people aren't doubting you the entire way, like, we're, this is almost 20 years in the game here. And still to this day, people are like, you can't add water to calcium carbonate and have it gain strength. Like, that's just not possible, right? And I don't believe whatever. So getting to witness that on a regular basis it's fun, but it's also validating that, like, this is worth pursuing because some of the smartest people in the world are doubting you, right? And you get to kind of leave the conversation with them appreciating something brand new that you brought to the table. So it's not crazy, but it's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've met some of your doubters, and so guys, these aren't imaginary enemies that Kas is fighting. These people are out there. They're people that our friends, we know they like and respect very much, and they brought you up unannounced, like, hey, have you talked? Because they know we talked to, like, some of the tip of the spear people. Right? Have you talked to Fortera? I was like, as a matter of fact, they're coming up, and they're like, oh my gosh, So they are out there, but that doesn't mean they're always right, and it doesn't always mean they don't like you. Because this particular person, I asked a few follow-ups, and he goes, yeah, no. He's like, my whole concern is wanting to sometimes pump the brakes and just say, have we checked X, Y, or Z?
Yes.
And so I liked that at the end of our 1 minute chat on Fortera, that it was at the end, it was like, no, I'm okay. It's not, I don't want to see them succeed. It was, I just want to make sure before we, have any massive concern, massive issues a few years down the road, that we've just at least checked boxes X, Y, and Z. And I imagine that that's probably most people's reaction eventually is, wow, this is really cool, but what about this? What about that? And let's check all these things. And Joey, before we let Kas get out of here, did you have any other questions for him specifically?
No, nothing from me. Thanks, Kas. I've really appreciated everything today.
Of course.
Yeah, man. If anybody out there is interested in what Fortera's got going on, you want to connect with Kas, where can they find you?
We're in San Jose. Fortera, go to our website, forterausa.com. If you do just inquiry, all stuff will, either run through me or our marketing team. So you'll get a hold of us pretty quickly. And
you don't have to tell them you heard about it here on the podcast, because this is a labor of love. There ain't no extra money here. So
10% off your first superset.
yeah, Fortera.com/add10 for your 10% off of all of their cement. No, I'm joking. Kas probably won't be able to honor that. But this is like our favorite thing we do, because we love having guys on here that are trying to change the world, solve problems. And you know what? Might be able to solve that problem. Why you're doing it, Silicon Valley, you said so you can get back to the money. All right, man. That's awesome. But when you do have the opportunity to, like, you're out of the embargo. You're able to tell everybody like what's going on with the plant. Construction started. I'm hoping a year from now we'll be talking to you then, and we're talking about when this grand opening is going to be, when you're going to make that first ton, and would love to follow you every step of the way.
No, we'll do it, and we'll do the session at the plant. That way, it's just in the background, and it's the real deal.
Sounds good, brother. All right, man. Hey, thanks again for your time. Look forward to everybody catch the next episode of the Add 10 Gallons Concrete podcast. Going to come out a couple of weeks from now. We've already got our guests lined up, ready to go. All things exciting. Appreciate everyone from the Concrete Works trade show as those episodes come out. Support's been wonderful. Really appreciate you guys, and we appreciate Kas from Fortera for bringing us this wonderful information. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Yep. See you.
My whole life I just wanted someone who would notice me. My whole life I just wanted to be somebody to be. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great. Yeah, 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 I just wanna be great. Yeah, I just wanna be great.